the pause that can change everything for you. I'm Stephen Rohde, and this is Course Correction, where men find their way back to themselves. Last episode, I asked you to do one thing: recognize the pattern, a pattern that is keeping you stuck. Just see it. Don't fix it. Yet, I'm guessing some of you did exactly the opposite. You saw it, and then you tried to fix it. I would have too, because I have done it countless times. That's what capable men do. So as we look at this framework we're building together, it has 3 steps: recognize, consider, and adjust. Last episode was about the first step: recognize. Just see the pattern clearly. And as I said, don't fix it, just look at it. Today we focus on the second step: consider. And this is the one most men skip entirely, which is exactly why you stay stuck. Nothing changes. Let me explain to you what I mean. You remember the man from the last episode? He was a husband, father. He was in his early 40s. He was successful on paper. He had a devoted wife, adoring kids. And he was lying awake at 2 a.m. thinking, I can't keep doing this. He recognized something that night. Maybe for the first time, he really saw it. The rage that came out of nowhere. The bourbon stops on the way home. The way he moved through his own life like a stranger in it. The numbness. And he did what capable men do. He moved on it. He tried to fix it. He sat down with his wife and told her he was going to change. He had to. He assured her that since he knew what needed to change, he knew how to change it. He had it under control. And he did. And he felt good at first. And she, though skeptical, thought maybe he did have it under control. Then a few days later, the kids were being loud while he was checking work emails. They were just being kids. And he snapped on them hard. The kind of snap that stops everyone in the room. His wife looked at him and said quietly, "What's going on? What's wrong?" And in that moment, he felt it. Defeated. He had done it again. He had recognized the pattern just days earlier, told himself things were going to be different, and there he was, the same pattern, different Tuesday. But then he made it worse because he overcorrected. He tried to fix it right there in the moment. He got defensive with his wife, explained himself, said things that turned her quiet plea into a full argument. And now there's not just the original snap, there's the argument on top of it, the broken promise on top of that, and the look in her eyes. He called me frustrated, confused. I saw it. I said I'd change. I tried, and I couldn't. What's wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with him. He did exactly what the most capable, action-oriented men do. He saw the problem, and he went straight to the solution. He skipped the step in between. That step is called consider. And it's the difference between change that holds and change that collapses. I've done this too, more than once. I recognized a pattern, immediately moved to fix it, and watched the fix fall apart within days because I hadn't actually understood what I was dealing with. I'd seen the surface, but I hadn't looked deeper. And I've done the other version too. Made changes for the people in my life because I didn't want to lose them. The relationship, the connection, my son's respect. I made choices for them And when those relationships got complicated, when the response I was hoping for that didn't come, the reason I was doing it disappeared, and so did the change. The work that actually held for me started when I stopped doing it for everyone else. When I started doing it because I couldn't live with the distance between who I was being and who I actually am. That shift from external motivation to internal, that's what Consider is really about. That's what Consider helps us reveal. So let's talk about what Consider actually is, because I think most men misunderstand it. Consider is not thinking about the problem. It's not analyzing what went wrong or building a better plan. It's not processing your feelings, at least not yet. That work comes later. Consider is creating a deliberate pause between the steps of recognition and action, and using that pause to let the weight of the moment actually land. I'm going to say that again. It's using that pause to let the weight of the moment actually land. Before I get into what happens inside that pause, I need to say something that I want you to hold on to. When you recognize a pattern, really see it, your instinct is to make it mean something about who you are. For example, I snapped at my kids again. That means I'm a bad father. I'm out of control. I'm turning into someone I don't recognize. This is just who I am now. That's not consideration. That's condemnation. And it's also not true. This pattern is not your identity. It's a behavior you learned. You probably learned it for good reasons. It served you at some point, protected you at some point. But it's behavior, and behaviors can change. What I need you to separate is this is what you do versus this is who you are. They are not the same thing. Holding that distinction is what makes Consider possible rather than threatening. Now, why do capable men skip this step? Because pausing feels like losing ground. Because you are men who handle things, who execute, who move. Stillness reads as avoidance, as weakness, as falling behind. And there's something deeper underneath that. If you slow down long enough to actually sit with the pattern, you're afraid of what you'll find. Not just what it means about who you are, but what it's going to ask of you. Because real consideration leads you somewhere. And somewhere requires a choice. And a genuine choice has weight. So it's a lot easier to stay in motion. Yet here's what staying in motion costs. The pattern keeps running you. You're not choosing anything. You're just reacting faster and with more conviction. The man who snapped at his kids and then immediately tried to explain himself to his wife, he was still on autopilot. He was just running a different program. Fix the damage, manage the moment, keep moving. Consider is the moment you actually stop. And in that stopping, that's where something different becomes possible. So here's how you actually get there. This step, Consider, starts in the body, not the mind. Because you are men who live in your heads. We all do. So when the pattern starts, when you feel the shutdown beginning, or the anger rising, or you're reaching for the escape, the practice is simple. Stop. Breathe. Hold the moment. Maybe breathe again. Give yourself time, say 10 seconds, before you do anything. Not to suppress the reaction, not to talk yourself out of it, just to create enough space between the feeling and the action to make a choice possible. 10 seconds. That's the entry point. That's the pause. And believe me, it can change everything. And now that you have paused, here's what you're going to do. You're going to ask yourself 3 questions. The first question, what is this costing me right now? Not abstractly, specifically. What is this pattern costing my marriage right now? What is it costing my relationship with my kids? What is it costing me? My own sense of who I am, the man I see in the mirror. Let that land. Don't rush past it. The weight of that question is exactly the point. When you do this honestly, when you actually let yourself feel what this is costing, rather than just noting it intellectually, that weight becomes real. That's gravity. That's what makes the next moment matter. The second question, what does this cost me going forward? Play the tape. A week, a month, a year from now. If nothing changes, where am I? Where is my marriage? What does my relationship with my kids look like? Who am I becoming if I keep running this pattern? And then flip it. Ask the other side of the same question. What becomes possible if I do change my course? What does that future look like? 2 futures, both of them real and possible. Let yourself feel the weight of both. This is consequence mapping. It's projecting forward with honesty. The first question makes the present real. The second makes the future real. And together, they create enough gravity that the last question, the most important one, can actually land. The third question, what matters enough to me to change this now? This one is your mirror, not who's asking you to change, not who's watching, not who needs you to be different. What matters enough to you? And here's what I want you to notice about this question. Whatever comes up, your family, your marriage, yourself, your integrity, that's the right answer. There's no wrong answer here. If you say, I want to save my marriage, that's real. That's valid. That points towards something true about who you are and what you value. Love, loyalty, family. Those matter. This question is also asking you to locate your own reason. Because here's what I've seen over and over in this work. Men make the right choice for the wrong reason. They change for their wife, for their kids, for the marriage. And those are noble motivations until the relationship gets complicated, until she's still frustrated, until the kids don't seem to notice, or until the marriage is still strained despite the effort you're putting into it. When the external motivation gets complicated, the change collapses with it. What sustains change is finding a reason that belongs to you, a reason that doesn't depend on anyone else's response, something that matters enough that you do this work even if no one was watching. You may not have that answer fully formed yet. That's okay. This question plants a seed. Just asking it, just sitting with it honestly, starts something, and that something grows. That pause, those 3 questions, that is consider. And here's what I want you to understand about where the power actually lives. It's not in the recognition. Recognition is just awareness. You can recognize a pattern for years and never change it. It's not in the adjustment. Action without understanding is just willpower over an unchanged system or circumstance. It holds for a few days, then collapses. The power lives in the consideration, in the moment you stop being run by the pattern and start choosing from what actually matters to you. That's where you go from passenger to driver. That's where and when the power of your choice becomes real. So here's what I'm asking you to do this week. When you feel the pattern starting, whatever you recognized last episode, stop, breathe. Give yourself 10 seconds before doing anything. And inside those 10 seconds, ask yourself 3 things. What is this costing me right now? What does this cost me going forward? What matters enough to me to change this? You don't need perfect answers. You don't need to have this all figured out. You don't need to have a plan. Just ask the questions. Let the weight of them land. Sit with what comes up. That's it. That's consider. That's the work this week. Now, some of you may be thinking, I already know the answers to those questions. I know what it's costing me. I know where it leads. I know it needs to change. And I believe you. Intellectually, you probably do know. But there's a difference between knowing these things in your head and actually feeling them in a charged moment. When the kids are being loud, when the anger is rising fast, when you can already feel the snap coming. Intellectual knowing says, yeah, I know I lose it with the kids sometimes. Consider in the moment says, right now, in these 10 seconds, I can feel what this is costing me and them. And I'm choosing to consider what can happen if I change. That real-time practice, that's what I'm asking you to build this week. Here's an important note about the 3rd question in particular. If your honest answer right now is, I'm doing this for my family, that's enough to start. It's pointing towards something real, something true about who you are. And over time, see if you can find the thread that leads back to you. Not just what you're protecting, not just who's counting on you. What do you choose for you? What does the man you're trying to become actually stand for? That answer, when you find it, is what sustains this correction. That's what makes the work hold when it gets hard. So this week, consider. Next episode, we're going to talk about what comes after consider. The adjustment itself. What one small correction actually looks like in real life. And why it doesn't have to be as dramatic or as perfect as you might think it does. This is Course Correction. I'm Stephen Rohde. If today showed you something you needed to see, if that pause, those questions landed something real, you're not alone in this work, and you don't have to navigate it alone. You can find me at yourcoretruths.com. Until next time, stop, breathe, and ask the questions.